This week, I basically pulled out all brand new fragrances in my collection, so stay tuned. Hey, what's good guys? Hunter here and welcome back to the channel where I upload weekly fragrance content, so you know the drill. Hit the subscribe button down below and also be sure to follow me over on my Instagram page. So of course, another week means another weekly fragrance rotation. If you aren't familiar with this series, I basically run down what fragrance I wore in each day, how many sprays, the kind of weather, and if that particular fragrance got any compliments or not. So let's get right into Sunday. Sunday was in the low 80s and sunny outside, and I pulled out a brand new niche fragrance in my collection that I fell in love with the moment I got my nose on it. And I did just recently review it, so go check that out. And it is Bon Parfumerie's 803. So this is a niche house, obviously based in France. And if you aren't familiar with this house, guys, they're probably one of the best bangs for your bucks when it comes to niche houses out there. And especially 803. When this is, of course, a very aquatic, salty, earthy fragrance, and also has this very unique frosted patchouli note that I've never smelled in any other fragrance besides this. Probably my favorite from the house of Bon Parfumerie, and I do own 4 in my current collection. Now, on that day, I did do 8 sprays of 803. The performance was very respectable. I did get a compliment because I did go out with this girl. She said that the fragrance smelled amazing, and then later on in the night, she said that it doesn't taste as good as it smells. And yeah, I'll leave it at that and let you guys use your imagination on that one. But anyways, this is going to be a huge compliment magnet with 803. So if you're looking for that and you love aquatic fragrances that have good performance, this is going to be for you right here. Monday was in the high 70s and cloudy outside, and I put out yet again another new niche fragrance in my collection, and this is coming from New Notes. This one is Musk Complexity. So this is a fragrance that I sampled. I got a discovery set from New Notes, and I fell in love with this one, so I'm glad to have a bottle in my current collection. If you're a musk fan, especially those kind of earthy, animalic, musky notes, this is going to be right up your street right here. And it kind of does remind me of something like Frederic Mall's Musk Ravageur, which is one of my favorite musks of all time. Very spicy, musky, earthy, animalic, and kind of smells like fall in a bottle, if I'm going to be honest. But on that day, I only did do 4 sprays of Musk Complexity. I don't remember doing much on Monday, so I got no compliments with it as well. Even though this probably won't get you a lot of attention or compliments because this is a little bit more on the challenging and daring side of things and might possibly get you some looks. But if you do love those musky fragrances, this is definitely one you want on your radar. Tuesday was in the high 60s and cloudy, so a little bit chillier on that day. And I did pull out what might possibly be the best designer launch of 2024. And it is Mont Blanc Legend Blue, which I just recently dropped my review of this one. And this stuff is seriously a banger that Mont Blanc came out with. Of course, you are going to get that original Legend DNA. Very recognizable, but it does add this nice mintiness, especially to the opening. And also just a little bit more aromatic and doesn't have that over-the-top fruitiness like the original Legend does have. But this stuff is so good, guys. On that day, though, I did do 10 sprays of Legend Blue. I wanted to get a full wearing experience from this one and see how it performed. The performance for me was very respectable. No complaints whatsoever when it came to the longevity and even the projection of it. I did get a compliment from my coworker though. At first, she said that she didn't smell me, but once I walked in front of her, I was like, all right, come here, walk behind me real quick and see if you could smell it. She said, wow, yeah, it's very strong and smells so good. So she digged it. And like I said, this might be the best designer launch of 2024. Even though we are basically halfway through the year, so we don't know what else is going to be coming out. Anyways, definitely one worthy of picking up if you love designer fragrances, especially if you love the Legend line or just that scent profile in general, like Abercrombie & Fitch's Spheres. Parfums of Maldives Percival, it is in that same realm. And I believe these are already hitting discounters, which is crazy because this just came out within like the last 2 months. Wednesday was in the low 60s and cloudy, so kind of chilly yet again. And I put out another fragrance that's brand new in the collection. This is coming from Hane Mori. This is HM, which is apparently a 90s classic that is pretty popular. And honestly, I haven't heard of this fragrance until I got the bottle in. But man, if you do love those kind of classic barbershop aromatic style fragrances, this is going to be right up your alley, guys, because it has this nice kind of foam, creamy opening from the lavender that is so good. And I'm not sure if this was discontinued for a little bit because if you look this fragrance up like on eBay and stuff, it is going for a hefty price. but they are in stock on their website for I think around 120 bucks at retail. So they might have just recently restocked it. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of this fragrance because, like I said, it's been pretty popular for almost the last 30 years. On that day, I did do 10 sprays of HM. And by the way, this is the EDP concentration. They also have an EDT concentration of the same exact fragrance. I believe it's identical in scent profile, just a little bit more concentrated with this one, and they retail for the same price, which is a little bit strange. But I did do 10 sprays. I got no compliments on that day, and I was at work, and I did have 2 coworkers mention that they could not smell anything on me on that particular day. And that is kind of the kryptonite of this fragrance because it's a awesome kind of foamy barbershop style fragrance, but the performance is absolutely lackluster with this. But I'm not sure if maybe my bottle has to sit and mature a little bit, but yeah, something has to change with the performance of this because it's not doing it. And I'm gonna review this one very, very soon because I do love my classic style fragrances, and this is one of them. So that's what I wore for Wednesday. Thursday was in the high 60s and sunny outside, and I put out another new fragrance in the collection, and it's also coming from Bon Parfumerie, and this one is 304, which is the newest fragrance in the house. And like the name says, guys, it is a cumin bomb. Very, very spicy fragrance. So if you're not a fan of cumin, you probably won't enjoy this one. And honestly, for me, I'm not the biggest fan of cumin either because it can come across like you've been sweating a lot and have that BO odor. And unfortunately, in the opening especially, it does give off that vibe. But thankfully, the cumin note kind of disappears after the first 2 hours or so and kind of dries down into this nutty almond woody style fragrance. And honestly, it kind of does remind me of Tom Ford's F and Fabulous because it shares like that identical almond note, which kind of gives off this powdery baby powder vibe. And it's weird because I did get a compliment from a coworker on this one. She pretty much told me she likes how it smells and it kind of reminded her of baby powder. And that's the exact vibe I was getting. And I believe it's coming from that almonds because the same almonds in F and Fabulous gives off that baby powder vibe. And I'm not a fan of F and Fabulous. Probably my least favorite fragrance from Tom Ford, and I do own a bottle over there. But still a very high quality fragrance from Bon Parfumerie. Even though I'm not really the biggest fan of this particular one, doesn't mean a lot of people won't because I do know a ton of people love the note of cumin. It's just not necessarily my kind of thing. Friday was in the mid 70s and sunny outside, which was nice. And I put out another new fragrance in the collection, which is a designer. And I did recently review this one as well, and it is Yves Saint Laurent's Myself. So this is a fragrance that I absolutely hated the first time I smelled this last year when it came out. But after getting to know it a little bit more, especially testing it for my review, etc., I kind of appreciate it more than I first did when it came out. And that's primarily because of the dry down of this stuff. It has this very unique amber fixed note, which is very ambery. And it is by far the best part of this fragrance because the opening is kind of generic, just basically a bergamot bomb. That starts to dry down into this white floral, which turns very powdery, and I hate powdery white florals in fragrances, just like the last fragrance we just talked about, 304, very powdery as well. I don't know, guys. I guess powdery fragrances are probably my least favorite thing in perfumery, and this one is overly powdery. But if you can make it through that bergamot opening, the powdery white florals, the dry down is by far what's keeping this fragrance alive for me. On that day though, I did do 10 sprays of Myself to test it out and get a full wearing experience, especially for the review. The performance was actually fairly good. And that's primarily from the amber fixed dry down, which makes this fragrance last a much longer time than what I was expecting it to. Pretty much ran errands the entire day, got no compliments with this one either. And I honestly don't really see this one being a compliment magnet. It's nothing sexy, it's nothing kind of groundbreaking. It's a little bit forgettable and just has that clean office style kind of scent to it. Wrapping the week off on Saturday, it was in the high 70s and cloudy outside, and I pulled out a fragrance I haven't worn in quite some time. And I believe the only fragrance of this week that I actually owned in my collection, besides all the other ones which are brand new, this is, of course, Versace Hawaii. This fruity beast of a fragrance right here. This stuff is very sexy. And for the price you can get this for, it's almost a no-brainer. But on that day, I actually only did 5 sprays of this one, and I was pretty much out shopping. And this is the kind of fragrance you don't have to overspray or anything like that. You will actually be perfectly fine with only 5 sprays. And even 5 sprays to a lot of you guys might be over spraying, because some of you guys maybe spray like 1, 2, or even 3 sprays. 5 sprays is pretty much nothing to me. And it's crazy too, because when I was out shopping, I ran into, I believe, Burlington, where I actually found a fragrance I've been looking for, and I'll talk about that probably next week. When I was checking out, obviously she noticed I was checking out a fragrance, and she said, whatever you got on now smells good. She asked me what the fragrance was called, so I told her, and she said, yeah, you came in here and lit it up. So she was pretty much saying this stuff was strong and smelled amazing. And like I said, that was only with 5 sprays of Hawas. This stuff right here is no joke and pretty much a room filler. Could you imagine if I would have did my 10? I probably would have had the cashier from like the next door over smelling it. But anyways, that's gonna do it for my weekly fragrance rotation. Per usual, guys, leave a comment down below the fragrances you guys have chosen to wear. You guys always pull out bangers as well, and I love seeing it. And also leave a like on the video, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and you already know I'll see all of you back here in my next upload. Take care, everybody.